Part of that restoration process and commitment is remembering where you've been. So, and you're going to see that by the time we get through this, we're going to see that tithing is a part of what's talked about because of the going back through the whole experience of how they got to be where they are at this moment. And part of their commitments was to go and keep the Torah, which included the support for the priesthood being there to do the work of the ministry. You did what you did partially because they did what they did. And you learned and you imitated and you became a part of that world because of what you saw and what you were raised with. And so you're acknowledging not that they are to blame. We're not turning this into a Freudian thing where we're going to blame our mothers and our fathers for everything or something. We're simply saying, I know where I got some of this from because my fathers did things that were wrong, and their fathers and their fathers, etc., did things that were wrong. And that I'm choosing now, this is going to be a commitment we're going to see them make, where they're going to actually make a vow, a commitment to be the generation now that changes. Why is Avram held in such high esteem? Now, I'm going to say this is going to sound a little strange, but before Deuteronomy 8:2 existed, he passed the Deuteronomy 8:2 test. Does that make any sense to everyone? Deuteronomy 8:2 says that he's going to test you to prove whether it's in your heart to keep his commands. He said that Avram proved that Yahweh found his heart to be trustworthy. Trustworthy in what way? To obey and keep his commands. He says, you gave them these things, and it's being talked about here in a very honoring and very highly esteemed way, appreciating the Jewish community, the visible remnant of all of this events here, they hold as highest in preciousness the Torah. By the way, when you read Psalm 119, don't you see David say the same thing? Okay, that it's more precious than gold, sweeter than honey. You couldn't hold it in higher esteem. But then again, we get to today where it's held in complete disdain and disregard. And it's awful that people would do that, but that's because they don't read this part of the book. Go in to possess the land which you had sworn to give them. To go in and take ownership and possess the land. And I don't think that you get to possess the land unless you possess the Torah. Unless you possess Yeshua, you have to possess these things. You have to say, I acknowledge that these things are for me, and I acknowledge what's required to have them, and I'm going to go walk in it. Making it a part of you. Go in and possess that. You also gave your good spirit to instruct them? You mean that the people in Nehemiah's day, actually he's quoting stuff going even way further back to Egypt, they had access to the Spirit before Acts chapter 2? I wish the people on the CD can see me making rolling my eyes face when I said that. I mean, it's ridiculous for them to say that. But there are so many groups today that will claim that we're special because we have the Spirit and they didn't. Nehemiah begs to differ. That's another thing for us in our journey, is to recognize that he said things and that he actually did what he said. That proves and gives us strength in our trust and belief in him, that he keeps his word. Because he said a lot of things that are still to come. And if the things he said before already happened and exactly the way he said, then we should be able to trust in the things that haven't happened yet are going to happen exactly the way he said. That seems reasonable. Now notice that keeps going over and over again. This is what the church would want to call grace. I'm not saying this is actually the word for grace, but this is what they claim grace is, where he was compassionate and had mercy even though they didn't deserve it. Do you understand what I'm saying here? That's what they've mixed up grace, which is actually merited favor, with unmerited favor, which is the compassion and the mercy. They didn't deserve him to come and do this, but in his great compassion, he did this. All of this desire to restore, to make teshuvah, to return, then brings them to an understanding. Remember, we read this previously in Chronicles, that in doing this, it would strengthen the leadership in the Torah because they would not have the distraction of having to make a living. And then everybody would be strengthened in the Torah because you'd have the priests or the leaders there to help strengthen you in the Torah and encourage you in what you need to do. So I believe this is a direct connection, that in restoration, he tests us and looks to see how serious we are as to whether or not we're going to put our finances behind it. Are you taking it seriously enough? Are you trusting him enough? Do you want it bad enough that you're going to back it up with the things that make you spoiled in the first place, your stuff? This is, again, the restoration process, the teshuvah process. And notice that he says, you turn back to me and I will turn to you. You don't feel like he's there? Maybe you need to turn around. Oh, we're so well churched and we want him to do everything first. No, you do it first. Because it's really not you doing it first. He started by opening your eyes, He did something first a long time ago with you. Now you've messed it up and now you've got to do something to fix it. Once you've messed it up, it's on you to turn around. If you can't realize where he took you out of and the pit you were in and the squalor you were in and wherever it is you were, and all of us were in our own personal pit or whatever, and he pulled you out of that, okay, I'm sorry that you don't have like 5 cars and, steak on the dinner table every night. You have your needs met, and now you're walking on the right path, and that path actually has a future other than death.